If you want to support Slopes Game Room, then please click the links that you see in the top comments. Mascots. Getting a new mascot to market and making it stand the test of time is what it was all about during the 90s, and even though we obviously don't need to go into detail about the obvious ones that as soon as you see them you instantly think of the company related to them, the 90s probably more than ever were completely littered with constant failed attempts at bringing new mascots to life. And whenever I think of this, one that stands the test of time in my mind for some reason is the fantastically designed but almost instantly forgotten about Green Dog. There's just something about this faceless guy that really does pique my interest. A game released for the Mega Drive or Genesis if you prefer that seemed to have everything going for it, by 1992 standards at least. I mean, put this thing right next to Animaniacs, Michelangelo from the Turtles, some Pogs and all that brightly wiggly line-coloured effect that we was all obsessed with back then, and Green Dog doesn't honestly need to be introduced. He fits right in, but unlike all of those great things, it seems that Green Dog vanished almost as quickly as he arrived. Well, after researching this bad boy, it turns out that his history actually predates the system by quite a big margin. And today, I plan to dig deep and look into the complete history on that game that pretty much all Sega fans for the time played, but have all since completely forgotten, including Sega themselves. I mean, seriously, this guy's never appeared on a compilation ever again. So, I think it's time that I say, join me as we try to figure out why that is, as we look into the character's origins, its huge marketing push, the phenomenon that could have been, and of course, the games too. Welcome to Slopes Game Room. Just look at this guy, Green Dog, the beach surfer dude. That cover probably has way more style than any other. It's so perfectly westernized, hence why it never came out in Japan. And for me, I've just always been completely fascinated with this guy. In fact, I actually remember drawing this guy quite a lot. Although, I will admit, Green Dog not having a face, yeah, I filled that one in myself. However, did you know that he actually does have a face? We'll get to that one in a little bit because, guys, yes, I think we're in fact getting a little ahead of ourselves. So, let's go back to the beginning. Back in the day, we're talking early 1980s here, people, there was a young boy in Southern California who liked to surf. His name was Rick Green, and from his earliest days, he was a pretty standard 90s kid from the area. In other words, he not only surfed, skateboarded and rode dirt bikes, but he'd done it with the floppiest hair imaginable and the most radical fluorescent get-up possible. It was during these early days of Rick Green's life where he adopted the name Green Dog. Because, you know, his surname was Green and slapping dog on the end of anything in the 90s instantly gave you 15% more street cred XP, so, you know, why not? Over the years, as the original Green Dog continued on with his life through the 80s, his name that had been pushed onto him became a character in itself. And along with his eventual wife, Anna, they decided to turn that inner character that everyone liked into an actual cartoon character of sorts when he came up with Green Dog, the faceless surfer dude. Now looking up anything for this character online nowadays will obviously bring up nothing but the video game. But during this transition from surfer to hardcore promoter of his character, according to a few reports that I've read online, it looks as if Green Dog had already started appearing on everything from t-shirts to towels and, well, not much else. Regardless, just looking at the design, there is no denying that this bad boy looked the part. He had the Nickelodeon colour scheme going on that was perfectly fitting for the time. He got those bendy features that were also quite apparent for those that remember things such as Fido Dido, but more importantly, he was relatable to kids for the time. And in an interview with Rick and Michael Latham, the eventual producer of the game, which we will get to in a little bit, they had this to say about the character when asked, what makes Green Dog such an interesting character?
He represents the average teenager with a cool but slightly awkward look. Unlike most of the violent or cute characters, Green Dog can walk the middle line. He isn't violent but can defend himself if pushed. Ultimately, I see him as the protector of pop culture. Whatever our users are into, Green Dog can do in his games. Imagine Green Dog bungee jumping, dirt bike racing, or jet skiing.
Besides the eventual release of the game, which honestly I rented and never owned until I became an adult, it's hard to deny that if I lived in Southern California and saw this faceless dude, I would have been hooked. I don't know about you guys, but this screams a very late 80s, early 90s me. Anyway, as time went on continuing to promote the character to surf shops around the area, Rick went one step further than you may expect. He went down the crowdfunding route. Yes, Rick had obviously built up a bit of a name for himself on the surf scene and ended up getting 9 surf-related companies who donate money for an upcoming board game featuring the Green Dog character called Surf Trip. Those companies were Body Glove, Town and Country Surf Designers, O'Neill, Instinct, Victory Wetsuits, LA Gear, Gotcha, Oakley, and Team Freestyle USA. The total came in at around about $100,000, and it was the perfect way to get the ball rolling, as plenty of surf shops and other larger retail shops stocked the game, which sold for approximately $20. And on September 21st, 1989, it was reported by the Los Angeles Times that toy manufacturing company Applause Inc. had purchased the rights to sell Green Dog related items from bed linen to even more t-shirts, action figures, another outdoor water board game, whatever that is, and lots of cool water toys too. Yep, everything was on the up and up for Rick's creation, and even his wife got involved in the action as a small section in the Orange Coast magazine from May of 1989, and yes guys, that's how you do research, stated that his wife Anna had actually managed to get the go-ahead to turn Green Dog into his own ABC sitcom too. And finally, without getting too ahead of ourselves, that same Sega Visions interview with Rick and the eventual game designer Michael Latham also stated that Green Dog was going to have a fully animated movie coming out the very next year, as in 1994. And there you go, it seems as if Green Dog was gonna be pretty big, right? Well, yeah, it seems that way. Still a video game? Sure, why not? With his board game in hand, he pitched the idea to Sega, and Shinobu Toyoda, the executive vice president at Sega, purchased the license with the intention on making a faithful video game rendition of the board game. Sega had been pushing to become the hippest and coolest console going, aiming at a slightly baggier wearing teen and younger adult crowd, and this just fitted in perfectly. Although, one very brief side note here, back in that Los Angeles Times news article, it stated that when Applause Inc. did buy out the Green Dog licensing name, it was actually going to be coming out as a Nintendo game. Who knows what happened here? I mean, obviously talks were made behind the scenes, but for whatever reason, Nintendo said no. And Sega, well, they did what Nintendo didn't they? The job of turning Green Dog into its own video game was dropped onto the lap of Michael Latham. He was working on a port of Power Drift at Activision beforehand, which led him to work at Sega, which then eventually put him in a rather awkward spot. A big heap of very problematic licenses were put in front of him, purchased by Toyota Sun, which included such greats as MC Hammer and, get this, Paula Abdul's Scat Cat and Her, among other things of course. And among the possible future gems in this pile was the Surf Trip board game. Michael decided that this was the job for him. He met up with Rick and together they decided to change it from a video game adaptation of the board game and instead turn it into a more generic platformer with a story that fits the character's style. Rick, being a surfer, really wanted to have Green Dog surf in the game, However, Michael explained that surfing games had not only not worked too well in the past, but also considering the short development time given to him and with the tiny cart size, as Michael puts it, they decided against it. The game eventually came out in September of 1992 after about 1 year of development, and the final product was, well, there's two ways of looking at it. As this is a heavy nostalgia based channel, let's look at it from the 1992 standards first. This game is fine. I don't remember completing it myself, but I still had plenty of fun with the game when I rented it on several occasions.
The clam. You can eat them or they can eat you.
In the game, you obviously play as Green Dog after wiping out on this surfboard and getting shipped to shore. You pull yourself together and find a big pendant around your neck which you can't seem to take off. On top of this, you quickly find out that the only way to get it off is to find several missing pieces of some Aztec artifact thing, and until then, not only will every living thing try and attack you, but you can't surf. Time to go and do some platforming. So yeah, this is Green Dog. Like I said, it's alright. The game isn't exactly hard. It's just by today's standards, a pretty average game considering what's available. As the story perfectly set it up, everything living is after your blood. Thankfully, you got your frisbee in hand to help you along your way, and well, there really isn't much else here, guys. I mean, does there need to be? There's this annoying section where you have a dog that eats up all of your pickups if you don't get to them first. You got levels set up as typical platformers. You got others that require you to fly, underwater levels, and skateboarding levels, which are easily my least favourite in the game. It's all incredibly standard. But in regards to sheer style and graphics, if you ask me, it's one of the best adaptations going. Considering the source material, they nailed it. A lot of the time when you saw screenshots in magazines, they honestly made the games look a little bit better than they perhaps were. This, however, does look fantastic. It's just a shame that, well, the gameplay is so incredibly average. Like I said, two ways of going about reviewing this one, guys, because magazines for the time, for the most part, actually reviewed it pretty highly. But nowadays, it's really quite hard to find anyone say one good word about this game. It was a game that had a tiny budget and not much marketing behind it either, resulting in Michael begging and pleading the higher-ups to promote it more, which resulted in him getting a comic strip in Max Overload where you actually get to see his face. And even though it was a game that reviewed well, had a perfectly 90s tubular frontman, in retrospect, it had way too much style over substance. From what I can tell online, almost nothing became of all of those big Green Dog dreams, which honestly, I'm quite sad about, because even though I think the game is rather standard, one thing that it is not is forgettable. Green Dog has always stuck with me, and it probably always will. And although many might look at this as a failed mascot of the 90s era, which it definitely was, I still think it's interesting to go back and look at what could have been. During the development, all of those deals that Rick and his wife Anna had put forward ended up falling apart one by one. No waterboard game, no sitcom, no action figures, no animated movie. And the final attempt to make something of the Green Dog character was this game. And after its release, when Rick went to Sega themselves, giving them the opportunity to buy the rights completely, they politely declined. And sadly, several years later, Rick Green passed away, leaving just this game, a terrible Game Gear port that came 1 year later that's really not fun to play, and an incredibly hard to find and highly collectible board game behind, as the short-lived legacy of the most tubular and radical underdog of the 90s, Green Dog. Green Dog! Hey there, guys, thank you all for checking out the video. This is DJ Slope, the creator of the video, and if you want to see more complete history type videos, then please make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified as and when I upload new videos just like the one you've just watched. A thank you goes out to Michael Latham, the guy behind this particular game. He actually helped fill in quite a few of the gaps that I wasn't able to do online, so yeah, massive shout out to you, buddy. Thank you so much. And yeah, like I said, I've always wanted to do Green Dog because I found the game, or at least the character, very interesting, and I always knew there was a lot more to tell, and hey, there you go, the more you know, right? But anyway, let's give a massive shout out to the Patreons that every single month help me out create this show. And if you want to become a member just like these guys, then there'll be links coming up. But let's give a massive shout out firstly to Gary Pinkett, Ryan Burford, Andrew Dalton, Jonathan Hayward, Ben Jackson, Kevin King, Christopher Turnbull, That Lost Gamer, Shadow Dial, Ryan Holtz, Dina Robertson Dunn, Intrigued Gaming, Abby, Adam, Lefty Taylor, Roven Army, Asobi Kwang DX, Tim Lunn, The Geeky Dad, Pretendo64, Conrad Constantine, Retro to Next Gen, Creamy Elephant, Tim Labonte, King Link Reviews, RL Slane, Friendly, Shadow Dragon, Chris Applin, Wobbles and Bean, The Wonder Ducks, Jim Knapp, Game Apologist, Dan Petit, Lucas Softail, Ye Old Hamburglar, Ronnie Method SSWB, Solix Captor, Jeremy Rodriguez, Nick Pollard, Bram Perez, Marcus Kingyumo Tyndall, Richard Carter, aka Fantastic Dizzy, Petty Mew, Todd Paul Float G, Burite, BC's Gaming Shelf, Trans Rights, and Samuel Nilsson. Check that out, guys. Literally, the names aren't completely showing up on there, but I remember them all because I say them so often, and you know, massive shout out to those Patreons and YouTube members that help me out every single month. If you guys want to get your name shown, get your name shouted out, then yes, do click the links that you're going to be seeing on the screen. Yeah, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, a thumbs down, whatever you prefer. If you know someone that would like it, please do share. All those people that are sharing it on social media sites like Reddit and what have you, it helps out so much. So thank you all so much. Honestly, it really does help the show. But yeah, anyway, that's enough from me, isn't it? Yes. This is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.